Today we're going to finish up this part 2 of the HT-37 helicopter's transmitter. And we're working on the 300 volt low voltage power supply. And as you can see here, I have now installed the board. Fits right in it real nice. Now there is room in here if you can find two bigger capacitors that have the capacity and the voltage rating. Instead of putting 4, you could put 2, but you'll have to design your own board then. But I used what I had, Hamfest specials, about $2 a piece. And I went with this idea here. It gives me a more higher, I get something like, I don't know, 1900 volts from plus to ground and all that, with the capacity of the voltage capacity of the capacitors. But anyway, I got this thing installed and it does work. Got it checked out, and I'm putting out the 300 volts where I'm supposed to be. And all this does is, like I said before, it just replaces this one cap that has two caps in it. The can, it replaces the can. So I got that done. And of course, the next stage will be, part 3 will be the high voltage 4 capacitors going in here. And those capacitors are all put in series. What I want to show you is that after you got this thing working, you can actually fire this thing up. There'll be no high voltage, because here's the high voltage right here, and I still have to put that circuit board in. But you can transmit and everything. As far as, you know, I put a short antenna on there, just a bunch of jumper wires, and I was transmitting across the room into my SX101. But anyway, the power here comes out of here, comes around, and goes into this connector here, SO4. Comes out and ends up here. This feeds 300 volts to the sideband generator right down in here. Well, I've replaced the capacitors in here and all this, and getting the 300 volts here. And on this other side right here that goes into the choke that feeds the power to the sideband generator, the voltage would be dropping down to about 140 volts. Well, I got 5 brand new tubes in there, and there was new capacitors and all that, and it was still just weird, you know. But what I found out was that two things. First of all, the choke here, the original choke, I'm assuming it was original, everything looked original in here, was only a 1 microhenry. And that should have been a 2.5. Should have been 2.5 microhenry. Because I'm with the scope and all on here and all, and there's a 9 megahertz oscillator that runs continuously. It just runs whenever the set's turned on. And I was getting seeing the 9 megahertz on the B+. So I happen to have in my junk box a 2.5, put that in there, and I put a new 005 on one side here, and then on the other side, on a 300 volt side, I put a 0.01. But anyway, I got rid of that problem, but I still had the voltage from 300 here. We go down to about 140, and I need 200 on the tubes in the sideband generator. Well, I found out there was a 6.8 k ohm 2 watt resistor crossed here, and by keeping the voltmeter on there, it was dropping down from 300 here, going all the way down to 140 on this side. So I had to pull that out, and with another 6800, it didn't do much good either. But I found out I had to increase the wattage, plus I had to lower the resistance. So I got 4 out of my junk box. I got 4 of these 3.3 k ohm 2-watt resistors. You put two in series, 2 in parallel, 2 more in parallel. Then you put those pairs in series, and on the outer ends, you can go on each side here where that resistor was, and that comes out to be 3.3 k ohm. So it worked fine, and now my I can feel the heat coming off of these, but the voltage stays constant up here at about 195 volts. So I was able to I put my microphone in. I could talk on sideband into my test receiver. I could go CW. Everything looked good. The waveform on CW looked beautiful. The rise time and fall time on the CW note was nice. Very good. So that takes care of the part 2 of this B+ section, and we'll get started on making the boards here. Making the board here for the part 3 of the high voltage, which is going to be 750 volts, and we'll make a video of that. Oh, by the way, let me give you the finalized print on the 300 volt supply. And I did have to change the one resistor that was in the solid state rectifier. I had a 250 ohm 10 watt in there, and I had to lower that down to 200, and that gave me the proper voltage here for the sideband generator. But here's the print, and you'll have to zoom or put it on hold. Down here I show the plug-in rectifier for V18. I'll get a little closer here, and then you can see better there. And I'll slide on down here. Of the rectifier itself, the solid state rectifier. So that's it. That solves the 300 volt power supply problem. And before long, I'll have this on 40 meters and 75 meters. Be talking to the guys down there on the AM band. So these resistors here, I can replace this with. I could buy order a resistor, replace those 4, but this is just temporary right now to get the set up and running. All right, thanks for looking, and be sure to look for part 1, which is the rectifiers, how to make them, and then carry on with part 3 that I'll make here shortly. So thanks for looking.